My name is Betty M. Jenkins, and I am 28 years old. My family did not invite me to Christmas because, according to my sister, it's no place for losers. So I calmly agreed, walked away, and stopped funding her children, her husband, and the life she had quietly built on my bank account. Now she is going crazy, and honestly, I should have seen it coming years ago. I was actually looking forward to Christmas that year. For once, I was not scrambling on December 24th, panic buying candles and gift cards like a woman trying to prove love through receipts. By the first week of December, I had already bought presents for everyone. My parents, my sister Jacqueline, her husband Kyle, their children, even a few extra gifts in case someone brought an unexpected guest. I wrapped everything carefully, used matching ribbon, wrote little name tags, and felt something close to peace. I thought maybe this year would be good. That was my first mistake. On Christmas evening, I stood on my parents' front porch with a bag of wrapped presents in each hand, my fingers stiff from the cold, and waited for someone to open the door. I could hear voices inside. Music, children laughing, dishes clinking. It sounded warm. It sounded like family. Then my mother opened the door, looked at me, and said, "We don't want you here this year." At first I thought it was a joke. A bad one, but still a joke. I gave this awkward little laugh, waiting for her face to soften. It did not. Behind her, my father stood near the hallway, looking everywhere except at me, and then Jacqueline's voice cut through the doorway. "This is no place for losers," she said. "You're really starting to wear on all of us." I stared at her. She was standing behind Mom with a glass in her hand, looking smug in that lazy way people do when they are sure the room belongs to them. Kyle sat in the corner near the tree, quiet, his face flushed, his eyes fixed on the floor. The kids were somewhere deeper in the house, probably still excited about Santa and dessert, having no idea the adults had just turned Christmas into an execution. A wave of emotions hit me all at once. Confusion, anger, embarrassment, and something colder underneath. I wanted to ask what I had done. I wanted to shove the bags of gifts into Jacqueline's arms and tell her exactly how much of my money was sitting under that tree already. But somehow, I stayed calm. I nodded and said, "Fine, if that's how you feel." Then I walked back to my car. I sat in the driveway with the presents beside me, staring through the windshield at the house I grew up in. No place for losers. Tired of me. Where was this coming from? I had a pretty good idea Jacqueline was behind it, but I could not understand why. I had helped her family for years. School supplies, summer camp fees, groceries, emergency rent, even part of their mortgage when things got tight. I had never asked to be praised. I just did not want her children to suffer because Jacqueline could not keep her life steady. But I was not ready to leave without answers. I got out of the car, left the presents behind, and went back to the door. This time, I did not knock. My parents were still standing near the entryway, whispering like they had not expected me to return. Jacqueline was already back on the couch, scrolling her phone like nothing had happened. "What is going on?" I asked. "Why am I not welcome at Christmas? What did I do?" Jacqueline grinned without looking up. "You really don't get it, do you? You've been slacking lately. The kids barely got anything from you this year." I stared at her. "I spent hundreds on presents for your kids. They have more gifts in my car than anyone else." "Last year you did more," she said. "This year, it's like you don't care. It's embarrassing for us." I turned to my parents, expecting one of them to tell her she was out of line. Instead, my mother gave me an awkward smile. "But honey, you did just buy a new car. You found money for that." "The car is financed," I said slowly. "And even if it wasn't, how does buying myself a car make me responsible for Jacqueline's children?" Jacqueline leaned back like she had been waiting for that question. "You make the most money. We're family. Families help each other." I looked at Kyle. He still said nothing. His face was red, and he looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him. "So that's your reasoning?" I asked. "Because I've been generous before? I'm obligated forever? And if I don't give enough, I'm a loser? Jacqueline shrugged. If the shoe fits, that was it. I stepped back and nodded. You know what? You're right. I don't belong here. I looked at my parents. Enjoy your Christmas. Then I turned to Jacqueline. And good luck with those presents because this loser is done financing your life. Then I walked out before anyone could say another word. I drove home in silence, gripping the steering wheel harder than I needed to. The streets were full of Christmas lights, glowing windows, inflatable snowmen, families walking across driveways with foil-covered dishes and gift bags swinging from their hands. Everywhere I looked, people seemed to be going somewhere they were wanted. I had 2 bags of presents sitting beside me and nowhere to take them. When I pulled into my driveway, I did not get out right away. I sat there, staring at the wrapped gifts until the colors started blurring. I had spent weeks picking them out, a drawing set for Emma because she loved sketching animals, a dinosaur kit for Lucas because he was obsessed with fossils, a new winter coat for Kyle because he never bought anything for himself, for Jacqueline, a necklace she had mentioned wanting back in October, for my parents, things they needed but would never ask for. I had thought about everyone, and still, somehow, I was the loser. The more I sat there, the clearer it became that this was not really about Christmas. It was about a system I had helped create, without realizing it. Jacqueline had learned that if she struggled, I would step in. If Kyle looked exhausted and the kids needed something, I would send money. If my parents sighed and said Jacqueline was going through a lot, I would absorb the guilt and open my wallet. At first, it had been love. Then it became habit. Then somewhere along the way, my kindness turned into something they believed they were owed. When Jacqueline and Kyle first married, things were rough. Jacqueline bounced between jobs, always claiming the manager hated her, or the schedule was unfair. Kyle worked hard, but his paycheck never stretched far enough. When Emma was born, I helped with diapers and formula. When Lucas came along, I helped with daycare. When they were behind on rent, I sent money. When the kids needed school supplies, I paid. When Jacqueline called crying about summer camp fees and how the children would feel left out, I covered that too. I told myself it was temporary. Temporary lasted years. The next morning I woke up with a headache and a decision already sitting in my chest. I was done. No more emergency transfers. No more expensive gifts to compensate for Jacqueline's poor planning. No more being treated like an ATM with a birthday. If she wanted her children to have the things I had been providing, she could figure it out herself. Cutting off Jacqueline did not just mean money. It meant risking my relationship with the kids, with Kyle, maybe even with my parents. But I could not keep paying for the privilege of being disrespected. Christmas had shown me exactly where I stood. Outside the door, holding the bags. The silence lasted through New Year's. No calls. No texts. Nothing from my parents. Nothing from Jacqueline. Not even a guilty little message pretending things had gotten out of hand. For the first time in years, I spent the holidays completely alone. At midnight, on New Year's Eve, my phone stayed dark on the coffee table. I will not lie. Part of me wanted to call, but every time I reached for it, I heard Jacqueline's voice again. No place for losers, so I gave them exactly what they wanted. Distance. By mid-January, Kyle texted me out of nowhere. It was short. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I don't agree with what happened. Jacqueline won't hear it from me, but you deserved better. I stared at the message for a long time. Kyle had been silent that night. His apology meant something, but his silence had meant something too. Finally, I wrote back, I appreciate it, Kyle, but this isn't something I can just move on from. He did not push. That was one thing about Kyle. He was quiet, sometimes too quiet, but he knew when not to make a wound worse. Then, in early February, Jacqueline showed up at my house unannounced. I was in the middle of a work meeting when the knocking started. I ignored it at first, but it kept going, harder each time. When I finally opened the door, she stepped inside before I could invite her. We need to talk, she said. I crossed my arms. About what? You need to stop acting like this and start helping again. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, but because the entitlement was breathtaking. Helping? You mean paying for your life? Her face hardened. Do you know how hard it's been since you decided to punish everyone? The kids barely have what they need. Kyle is stressed. Mom and Dad are upset. All because you want to prove a point. No, I said. All because you called me a loser at Christmas after years of taking my money. You've always helped before. And now I'm done. She stared at me like I had broken a law. You're selfish. I stepped closer, finally letting the anger show. Selfish is lying to our parents, turning them against me, banning me from Christmas because I didn't spend enough on your kids, and then showing up at my house asking for more. Jacqueline opened her mouth, but I held up a hand. We're done here. I'm not giving you another dime. Don't come back until you learn how to act like an adult. She stood there, shaking with rage, then stormed out. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. 2 days after Jacqueline stormed out, I got a call from a number I did not recognize. Normally, I would have ignored it, but something about the timing made my stomach tighten. I answered, with one hand still on my laptop, half expecting Jacqueline to be screaming from someone else's phone. Is this Betty Jenkins? A man asked. Yes. Who is this? My name is Mark Dawson. I'm an attorney. I represent a client who has concerns about certain financial matters involving your family. Do you have a moment? The word attorney made the room go colder. What financial matters? I'd rather not go into detail over the phone, he said, his tone too polished to be comforting. But it involves the contributions you've made to your sister Jacqueline and her household over the years. For a second, my mind went to the worst places. Had Jacqueline taken out something in my name? Had she used my information? Was this another attempt to scare me into reopening the money pipeline? Who is your client? I asked. There was a pause. Kyle. That stopped me. Kyle, who had sat silent on Christmas. Kyle, who had texted one apology, and then disappeared again. Kyle, who would always look tired in a way I thought came from work and children, but maybe came from living beside a secret. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet Mark the next afternoon. His office was small, clean, and quiet, the kind of place where bad news wore a suit. He led me into a conference room and placed a folder in front of me. Kyle believes Jacqueline has been misusing the money you sent, he said. I stared at him. Misusing how? Mark opened the folder. Bank statements, screenshots, transfer records, copies of receipts. My name appeared again and again in outgoing transfers from my account to Jacqueline's. School fees, emergency rent, groceries, camp, mortgage help. Every time I had believed I was helping the children, there it was in black and white. Then Mark showed me the second account. Large withdrawals, online gambling sites, expensive restaurants, hotel charges in nearby cities on nights Jacqueline had told everyone she was working late. Money moving out, almost as fast as I had sent it in. My throat tightened as I flipped through page after page. You're saying the money never went to the kids? Some of it did, Mark said carefully, enough to keep questions away. But Kyle believes a significant portion was diverted into Jacqueline's personal account and used for gambling and other expenses. I leaned back in the chair, suddenly furious at myself. I thought of Emma's worn sneakers, Lucas's school fundraiser forms, Kyle skipping lunch because things were tight. All those times Jacqueline cried to me about the children needing help, and she had been skimming from the help before it ever reached them. How long has Kyle known? He suspected for a while, Mark said, but Jacqueline controlled most of their finances. He only found the second account after she left bank statements in a drawer. Once your support stopped, things unraveled quickly. Of course they did. My money had not been a cushion. It had been fuel. Does he want me to press charges? I asked. Not at this point. Kyle's focus is protecting himself and the children. But he wanted you informed in case Jacqueline pressures you again or tries to twist the story. I almost laughed. She already showed up demanding money. Mark's expression darkened slightly. That matches what Kyle feared. He believes she is becoming desperate. I left that office feeling like my insides had been scraped raw. I was angry at Jacqueline, but beneath that was something worse. Shame. I had thought I was helping. I had thought I was keeping children safe from instability. Instead, I had spent years feeding the very problem I wanted to protect them from. That night, Jacqueline called. "What do you want?" I asked. "You talked to Kyle, didn't you?" Her voice was tight, almost frantic. "You've been putting ideas in his head." "No, Jacqueline, your secret account did that." Silence. Then she snapped. "You don't know what you're talking about." "I know about the gambling. I know about the money. I know every emergency you cried about was just another way to bleed me dry." She started shouting, but I cut her off. "You used me for the last time. If Kyle leaves you, that is on you. If the kids find out who really failed them, that is on you. And if you drag me into this again, I will make sure everyone knows exactly where my money went." Then I hung up while my hands were still shaking. For the first time, the silence after Jacqueline felt like freedom. The fallout came faster than I expected. The next morning, Kyle called me, and before he even spoke, I could hear the exhaustion in his breathing. "Did Jacqueline call you?" he asked carefully, like he was stepping around broken glass. "She did," I said. "She thinks I'm the reason everything is falling apart." Kyle let out this humorless little laugh. "Of course she does. She confronted me last night after you hung up on her. She admitted some of it, not all of it, but enough. The gambling, the second account, the hotel charges. Then she tried to say she only did it because she felt trapped." His voice cracked slightly on that last word, and for the first time, I realized just how long he had been carrying shame that did not belong to him. "Are you okay?" I asked. It felt like such a small question for such a huge wreckage, but I did not know what else to say. Kyle was quiet for a moment. "I don't know," he admitted. "But I know the kids deserve better than this. I'm tired of pretending things are normal just because Jacqueline screams louder than everyone else." Hearing him say that hit me hard. Kyle had always been the quiet one. The one smoothing over awkward moments. The one lowering his eyes when Jacqueline made a scene. But quiet people have breaking points too. They just reach them without announcing it. Over the next few weeks, Kyle and I talked more than we had in years. Not constantly, not in some dramatic secret alliance way, but enough for me to understand the truth. Jacqueline had controlled their money, their story, even the way the family saw him. She told my parents he was lazy when he worked overtime. She told me they needed help for the kids, when she had already spent money elsewhere. She told everyone she was the one holding the family together when really, she was pulling threads loose and blaming the unraveling on everyone else. Then, one afternoon, I got a text from Kyle. 3 words. "We're leaving today." I called immediately. He answered in a whisper, and I could hear movement in the background, drawers closing, children murmuring, the heavy sound of a life being packed quickly. Jacqueline was out of town for what she had called a work trip, though by then none of us believed her explanations anymore. Kyle had rented a moving van, packed essentials, gathered the kids' documents, and arranged to stay with a friend in another state until the legal pieces were in place. "I can't keep them here," he said. "I can't keep letting them grow up thinking this is what family looks like." "What about money?" I asked. He hesitated, and I heard the shame return to his voice. "I hate asking you this, after everything, but I may need help with the first month. Rent, deposits, groceries, just until I start my new job." For a second, the old fear flickered in me, the fear of being used again. The fear that kindness was just a door people walk through to empty your house. But this felt different. Kyle was not demanding. He was not entitled. He was not calling me a loser while reaching for my wallet. He was trying to get 2 children away from chaos. "Say no more," I told him. "I'll cover it." And I did. Not because someone guilted me. Not because family made me responsible for every bad decision Jacqueline had ever made. I helped because this time, the money was going where it was supposed to go. To safety. To rent. To groceries. to two kids who deserved one adult willing to choose peace over pride. Jacqueline came home to an empty house and lost her mind. She called me so many times. My phone looked broken. When I finally answered, she was screaming before I even said hello. "You turned him against me. You ruined my family." I let her rage for a minute, then said, "No, Jacqueline, your lies did that. Your gambling did that. Your choices did that." She called me selfish, bitter, jealous, every word she could throw to avoid looking at herself. This time, none of them landed. The last thing I said to her was simple. "Maybe if you had spent less time using everyone, and more time being a wife and mother, you wouldn't be alone right now." Then I hung up. Kyle is doing better now. He found steady work. Emma and Lucas are settling into their new school. They still call me sometimes. And when they do, I send gifts because I want to, not because Jacqueline demands it. My parents still think I went too far, but they have stopped asking me to fix what Jacqueline broke. As for my sister, she is still blaming everyone but herself. So that is the happy ending, if you can call it that. I lost the version of my family I thought I had, but I kept my self-respect. And for the first time in years, nobody gets to call me a loser while spending my money.